Hi everyone, Woniya from Buckskin Revolution to talk about washing your buckskin clothing. So I get a lot of questions about how you care for your buckskin clothes and whether you can wash them. So absolutely, you can and should wash your buckskin clothes. Not as true of other leathers. Chemically tanned leathers, alum tanned leathers, bark tanned leathers, none of these stand up nearly as well to getting wet and dry as do buckskin, one of the things that make buckskin so unique and wonderful. Also, chrome tan in particular really doesn't stand up well to human sweat, whereas buckskin isn't particularly affected by human sweat. So one of the many reasons that buckskin is just infinitely superior to all other leathers. But that said, there are ways that I recommend washing buckskins and ways that I would tend to shy away from. So the first thing is that you would never want to treat your buckskin clothing any way you wouldn't treat your own skin, right? One of the things that's so wonderful about buckskin is that it is as close as we can get to still being the living skin of an animal and it be preserved for our own use. So really hot temperatures are going to damage buckskin. So never use hotter water than is comfortable to leave your own hand in indefinitely. Also, you can wash your buckskins in a standard washing machine, but I don't recommend it because that agitation cycle, it's going to be harder on your buckskin. It's going to push and pull it while it's wet and make it more likely to pull out stitches or make holes get bigger or that kind of thing. So the other thing is that there's usually going to be some kind of residue of detergent in your washing machine, and you don't want to use detergents with buckskin. You can use a mild, natural fat and lye based soap, but I tend not to use a soap unless I really have to, because the soap is going to leach the smoke color out of the buckskin a lot faster. So if my hides are actually like greasy or sooty or like ground in dirt or blood or something, then I might use a little bit of soap. But usually I just use warm water, and then it's really just, my mechanical action of my body that is cleaning the hide. These pants are getting a little scuzzy, so it is a good time to be washing them. So I like to use a 5-gallon bucket, half to 3/4 full of warm but not hot water, and just scrub the heck out of my buckskins for a while. It's good to let them soak for a while as well, just because that's going to kind of loosen the fibers and allow them to let go of that dirt. If I do use soap, then I like to use a Castile soap that's going to dissolve into the water really nicely, or I'll use some grated bar soap. But the thing with detergents is that they have synthetic chemicals that are going to specifically suck the fats out of things, right? That is part of how detergents are made, and dish soap similarly, to really, really break up oils. And with buckskin, oils are part of what is making them good. The dressing that's in the hides are oils, so we don't want to use something that's going to chemically break apart and draw out the oils. Soap does that a bit, but not to where it's ever going to damage the hide. Detergents could potentially, and so I just totally avoid those. Also, they're going to tend to really bleach out your buckskin, and they'll end up pretty darn pale. So if you're after pale buckskin, more soap. If that's not what you want, I would tend to avoid it. So you can see my wash water gets pretty dark pretty quickly. Some of that is smoke coloring, but most of it is dirt, especially with how old these pants are. And if they're really dirty, I will sometimes use a scrub brush and go over the surface, but mostly I just rub them on each other, paying special attention to the dirtiest parts of the buckskins. So I wouldn't generally do it unless I really needed to, but I'm just going to use a little bit of soap in here just to demonstrate. And I don't want to use too much, just a titch. And it's nice to do this in a couple rinses of water. And with most things that I hand wash, I like to go until the water is mostly clear, enough wash and rinse cycles to get them pretty clear. But I just find that that doesn't really happen with buckskin. And if I try for that, then I'm going to be leaching out so much of the smoke color. So I just go for pretty darn clean, a lot cleaner than they started, and call that good. was definitely time to wash these buckskins. You can see how scuzzy the water is. So probably 3 or 4 more changes of water would get these something like one would consider clean enough. And I know people who aren't into cleaning their buckskins, or not very often. I run with a lot of grungy folks sometimes, and I have been very grungy at different times in my life. But the reason why you want to be sure to wash your buckskins is because, especially if you're out in the woods a lot, especially if you're in like wet conditions where your buckskin is really open and you're getting mud ground into there, you've got minuscule little particles of dirt and sand and grit in your hide, and all of those little particles are actually abrading the fibers and breaking down your buckskin faster. Plus, they're creating habitat for bacteria to hang out that can break down your clothes. So I have seen people who don't wash their buckskins wear through their buckskins way faster than they would have had they just maintained them regularly and gotten some of that grit out every once in a while. So seriously, wash your buckskins once in a while, people. It's much better for your hygiene and for your buckskins. When I am done, I'm going to wring them out, not super strong, not as strong as I possibly can, but enough to get a lot of the moisture out of them. And now how I dry my buckskins is as important as how I washed them, because if you dry them too fast and in too hot a condition, then they're gonna get a lot stiffer on you. Just like jeans get stiff on a clothesline, buckskin will do that same thing, but because buckskin is so much more substantial, when it gets stiff, it gets really stiff, and it's hard to actually wear it in. So what I do is I lay it out in usually like dappled sun and shade, or if it's not a super hot day, then in full sun is fine, or if it's a really warm day, then just straight up in the shade. If you have a way to lay it up above the ground, like throwing a sheet over some bushes or an old screen door propped up between sawhorses, or any way where it kind of airflow all over, that's ideal. You want your buckskin to dry slowly, but not so slow that it's going to mold. So it's kind of a delicate balance, right? And it depends on your environment and how humid it is. But also very important to dry your buckskins flat, not hanging, because buckskin is so stretchy, and it's extra stretchy when wet. And the shape that it dries in is going to have an effect on the shape that it carries for the next little while of wearing until its next washing. So if you hang it from clothesline vertically, then it's going to tend to get longer and skinnier. Maybe your pants were starting to get a little bit stretched out, and longer and skinnier is what you're after. So in that case, it might be all right, but I still probably wouldn't hang them the whole time. I might do it for a little while and then lay them out flat. But what I generally do is lay my buckskins out flat, ideally, over something, and then rather than just leaving there untended the whole time as they go from wet to dry, every so often I'm going to come and I'm just going to kind of give them a little pull in a couple different directions, side to side and vertically. And the most important time for me to do this is as they're getting from, fairly wet to just damp. When they're still quite wet, that's not a big deal. It's not going to make that much difference if I move them about. But once they're starting to get towards the drier side, that's the time to do it. And usually I'll just do that 2 or 3 times as they dry, and then they're going to be just as soft and flexible and lovely as when I first washed them. If I don't do that, they're going to be a little bit stiff and a little bit smaller for a little while until I wear them in. And depending on the cut of the garment and the nature of the hides, thick hides, for example, are going to resist more. Depending on those things, it can take longer to wear them in and get them back so they're comfortable and how you want them. So a little bit of care in the drying process goes a long way. So there you have it. Washing your buckskins is totally easy, definitely something you should do. Just don't do it the way you do all of your other laundry, and you'll be good to go and hopefully wearing your buckskins for a very long time.